over a river towing cables. And over here on the throttle, flip that open and throttle up. This will boost you into a rampless jump.
Disengaged.
We never could get the damn bridge to work, but this baby works just fine. So what do you think? Does it come in black?
Welcome to Shoeman's Model Shop, and what we're going to be working on today is the Batmobile Tumbler from the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight series. And it's a Lego build, and I'm really looking forward to this build. The first thing that you'll notice is that the front cover has the picture of the completed Batmobile. And it's a pretty big book. I mean, you know, let's take a look at it. It's really thick, but I think once you get into it, you're going to find that most of the pages, there's only one or two instructions on it, so it's bigger than it needs to be. The front cover here, we see the Batmobile in the background. That's the Lego. On the other page, there's just a quote from the movie. And then on the next page, it's giving more information. It's kind of neat. It tells you about how they built it and who designed it, and you see where the picture of the actual Batmobile is compared to how it will look when the Lego is done. The next page, again, is talking about building the Legos and the guy who designed it and how he built it, and gives you a chance to kind of look again how it's going to look when it's completed. Then the next page, there's a different step here, and we'll see this part later, how that part goes together. And then the next page, it gives you each step. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe there's 11 steps. We'll take a look at that. And it just shows you when you're done how it will look when each part's done, so you can kind of compare it and make sure that it looks like that. Whoop, missed a page. There we go. So yes, there are 11 steps. And the last step is, of course, the stand with, and they also give you a Joker and a Batman. Then we look at the completed deal and step 1. And like I said, you can see here where basically step 1 is 2 things. So each page is a smaller subsection, instead of like if you worked on like styrene models, you know, one page has a whole bunch of different instructions. These are pretty 1, 2, 3, 4. I like that. I think if, you know, and here are the parts for part 1. Each bag is labeled, so when you take it out of the box, you can see what parts you're going to use for what section. So we're doing section 1, so we're taking out the bags. And each bag has different parts. And one thing that I do is, because these bags are not sealable, I'm going to get a Ziploc bag and put like part 1 on it. You can see right here, and that way when I take the bags out, I put the parts in that bag so I don't lose them. And because I probably will not complete this whole build part 1 today, it'll probably be a couple parts just depending on how long it goes. So that way you'll keep the parts. I do this for some of my other models just to make sure that I don't lose the parts. And so when we're getting ready here, we can see that basically we're going to use 3 parts. We have the white square piece and these little pegs. They're little small black pegs that'll go in. So again, you can see where that's part 1 is pretty simple on page 1. So we'll get that part out. And the parts are color coded also, so you kind of can match the color on the book. So what we have is we have this part that it's white, and then we have these little connectors there, and then we see where they go in, and they just fit in. Some of them are a little tighter than others. I think it's because the end is open and they're pushed out more, but you know, you just kind of work yourself in and follow the directions and push them in the holes where they belong. And that completes part 1. So you like I said, I think this would be easy, and I think on the book it says 12 to up for building this, but I think a younger kid could do it, because the instructions are pretty simple with an adult. And so what we have here is the next step, or step, this would be considered step 3. And so we have each part, and all we're doing is we're adding some more of the square pieces, and we can see that those square pieces are black pieces. And then, like I said, each little square at the top tells you how many of each part you need, and so you know exactly how many parts to take out, because there are multiple parts that look the same. And then basically just plug right in to the white piece. And then we're going to add some more pieces to that. And like I said, what you can do is, like I'm doing here, is I'm just kind of comparing to, okay, here's what I have, what does the drawing look like? Right now it's pretty basic, and you can see that. But when we get into bigger parts, we're adding a whole lot more parts. That's going to be very helpful, because you can kind of look, because you're going to make mistakes. That's the thing about doing anything like this, is that even if you look at it, you're going to put something in the wrong place, or it's not going to fit right. That's the great thing about Legos, is that if you do make a mistake, you just pull it apart and go back and redo it. And again, we're just adding the little pegs onto this bigger part, and we're putting them on the inside. That, you know, it's a little tricky, because again, the pieces, some of them fit sliding right, some of them don't. So they just go in, they're going in on the inside of this piece. Another thing about Legos that's fun is that you really kind of, when you're putting it together, you kind of go, okay, what is this going to do? How's that going to fit? How's that going to work? And as you build it, you'll see how that all comes together. But it's just kind of a fun little project. And you can see this part just doesn't want to go in. I think it's because, again, these end pieces, they have like a little split in them. And I noticed that some of them are more split than others. So you kind of just got to kind of work with it to get it in. But eventually we will get it in, and there it goes. And we have two more pieces on that end. Again, you can see how that piece just doesn't want to just pop in. But like I said, eventually we will get it to pop in. And one of the things that I do when I start getting this together is I look at, that's why it's nice to have that little square part that says, here's the part you're going to need. I will try to get them out. So if it says I need 5 of this part or 2 of that part, I try to get those out. One thing is, though, that I noticed on those black ones, I did have one that rolled away and I couldn't find it because it's on the black cable. So a lot of black on black here. So again, we see that this is another square part, and it's just going to slide right in. So that part slid in really nice. And now we can, again, compare it to what the picture shows. Our next step is going to be adding more pegs. And this time we're going to be adding some blue pegs. Again, remember I said this is all color coded, so we're going to use some more black pegs and some blue pegs. And so as you're following along, again, the neat thing about Lego is they don't have word instructions, because everybody around the world builds these. So the pictures will tell you exactly what you need to do. So we're getting out the black pegs. The one thing you'll notice about when I get the blue pegs out is they have a short end and a long end. That's what you want to pay attention to, is where does the long end, is it going out or is it going in? What part are you putting in? And you can see this on the long one, you can see where it's got a shorter end and a longer end. And on the upper square you can see where it's going to tell me how many of each part I need, and on the other page it's going to show where they go. It looks like we're going to need 4 of those. And again, I know it's pretty obvious. We're just going to be building on what we've already started. So each time we build, we're adding something to it. And then again, you can see where the blue pegs have that longer end. And again, depending on what it wants you to do, you can either put the long pin in or the short pin in. You have to be mindful of that. And you can see here I wasn't paying attention and I put 2 pegs together. Like I said, it's easy. Just pull it apart and put it back in. That's why you gotta love Legos. No glue, so when you glue something wrong, you don't have to try to unglue it. You just pull off the part and put it back in. And here we see on this end that the long end goes inside and the short end will stay on the outside. The same thing on the other side. And then next what we're going to do is we look at this part, we're going to add some more blue and black pegs. So right now we're just building a foundation. We're adding the black pegs and the blue pegs, which we'll be adding other pieces onto as we go along. And then on this one, you can see where it's the opposite we did before. The long side of the blue peg is going to be on the outside. So we add the black pegs here. More of the black pegs. Well, I think we'll be using a lot of those. And then, like I said, on these blue pegs, they're going to be on the end, but the long pieces are going to stick out. Compared to what we did before, where the short pieces stuck out and the long pieces went into the black piece. And that's where we can see where the longer pieces are on the inside and the long pieces on the outside on this end. Next part is we're going to be adding more to the structure, and we're going to be building 2. So you can see where it says ×2. That means we're going to build one and then build another one exactly the same of that style. And so we're going to use more of the black squares, and we'll be using 3 of the black squares. So we would need 6 black squares, and then we're going to be using more of the black pegs. And then you can see here where it's an offset. So the one in the middle will be slightly offset from the one on each end. And then we're going to, like I said, we're going to need some more of the black pegs. Those are going to, we're going to use a lot of those. I would like to count and see how many we end up using. But who knows? They probably give you actually more than you're going to need. And then again, they just slide into position. And then remember, the middle one's going to be slightly offset, as you can see in the directions. I think when it comes to Batmobiles, this is probably one of my favorite Batmobiles. In the original 1966 Batmobile, the Adam West, that was pretty cool. I like that, but I think this one's my second favorite one. The new Batman movie they have that also out as the and it looks like just a big car. So they kind of got away from the original look of a Batmobile to what looks like a car with lots of armor on it, which would be pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that. What I'm really looking forward to is also that I hope, and I know that Lego puts out the original Batmobile, I think it's 66, and they also did one for the Michael Keaton Batman. So hopefully they might eventually do all of them, and I would like to get that whole set if they do. I also know they do a Batwing from Michael Keaton. So eventually I would like to get that whole set. And if they do eventually do them all, that would be pretty cool. So now again, we're just putting pegs into the proper places, and then we did part 1 of 2, so now we're just repeating ourselves here for the next part. And those are complete. And then what we're going to end up doing is we'll be joining these parts to the part we've already done. So we're, again, just building on top of what we've done before. And then the next step is we're going to get out the piece that we've done previously. And then what we're going to do is we'll just be plugging in those parts onto that. And one thing that I found when I'm doing this is that if you're a little offset, it doesn't want to fit in. What I mean is if it's not level, so you kind of got to be level and got to push everything in together. If it doesn't, it kind of binds up a little bit. And one thing I'm going to have to get better at keeping things in camera. Sorry about that. And then once those, see how it's a little offset, it wasn't square, so I had to kind of put a little more pressure on it. And then also while you're doing this, you'll know that things can come apart a little bit, so you kind of got to keep pushing things together to keep them tight. But that is that part. And again, we can see where we're going to need to add some more of those pegs. But again, as you look at it, you can see how it is matching up with what is on the page. And then again, to all the directions, we just put the pegs in the holes where the directions show us. Now on that one, you notice that they were already in that instructions too. I didn't put them in. Again, no loss. You just go back and follow what you forgot to put in. Like I said, this is pretty simple. I think this is going to be a nice, easy build. I don't expect there's going to be any craziness going on. But you never know. But that's why I'm showing you guys this. So if you do build it, maybe you'll see some things that I've run into, or that you might want to do differently when you're building. But that is that completed part. And then we've got some more pegs to put in. And I believe this is, because I haven't jumped ahead in the instructions. I kind of browsed through them earlier, but I didn't really jump ahead. I'm just kind of going one at a time. So I think this is probably the base for where everything's going to build on top of that. You know, the sides, the wheels, and everything else. And that's where so this is the base part. But we'll see what we get as we go along. And of course we have some more of the blue pieces. So right now it's mostly black and blue, which is a Batman thing anyway, isn't it? Everything's black. What was it in the Lego Batman movie? I build anything as long as this is gray and black. So now we just got again, we just copy what we see here, and we're going to be adding some other parts soon. And again, just a reminder that we're just kind of matching up with what we're seeing on the page. And again, like I said, you could see where the book was pretty thick. When you look at it, you go, wow, that's a lot. Maybe that's a little bit daunting, but it's not really, because like I said, there's basically one or two things on each page. So I suppose if they wanted to, they could have put more stuff on a page to bring the book down, but I think, the idea is younger kids can do this because the pictures are bigger. They can see them better, and like I said, I think this would be a fun project, maybe a father-kids project, and the kids would love building this. I know I am. Snap into place, and again, remember the difference between the short end and the long end. You want to make sure that you get whichever one they show, whether it's the long or the short end. Next, we're going to be adding some, I guess you could call these Lego bars. I don't know if they have a technical term, but there's going to be, I believe, 6 of those that are going to snap into place. So I'll get those out right now. And there will be 2 different types. There's going to be a shorter one and a longer one. So we'll be doing, I believe, it's like 3 of the short ones. And again, just match up the picture of the part to where it goes. Because I know when I opened the bag, there was a lot of pieces that looked exactly the same. I'm like, wow, these all look the same. Which one do I need? And so that's why you kind of take the part out and look at what you're looking at on the instructions, and then we just snap. Those are just going to snap in on the ends of each end. And then we will repeat the same thing on the other side. On the other side, you're going to notice that the reason we use the longer blue pegs is because once we put these on the end piece, then a little bit of that blue is going to be sticking out. So if you got it backwards, you would notice you wouldn't see that blue piece sticking out at the end. So again, that's another cue as to what pieces go where. And again, if you didn't do it right, pop it out, put it back in. The beauty of Lego. And again, you can see here where I kind of bound it a little bit, so you want to just kind of go straight and then push it in together, because if it binds a little bit, it won't go in as smoothly. And there we go. And now on the end pieces, there's another piece that goes on the end. And I think that's, I think I'm going to go ahead and finish this up here, get that piece in. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to stop at this part. It's been about 30 minutes or so to get these parts done. And so I'm going to go ahead and call it a stop on here, and we'll pick up part 2, or we'll pick up the next part on our next video. So I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy this build as much as I'm going to enjoy building it.